Okay, we have a public hearing on ordinance 2020-8-1. Is anyone here on the second reading of 2020-8-1 amendment on various sections of the property maintenance regulations? John Meadows. John. If you have any questions on it, anybody contact anybody on these various reports on the changes. You want to talk about the changes just a little bit, John?
The amended ordinance before you, I think this is the second reading on it, but the changes that were made to the property maintenance regulations include limiting the scope of the property maintenance advisory board's review of cases. I think it eliminates the requirement that the codes enforcement officer take the case before them for review, and it makes it only on an as-needed basis. At this point, any new complaints that are investigated, the code enforcement officer is required to take it to the property maintenance advisory board for their concurrence, and there is amended codes that changes that are required.
Any questions for John on that? Is anybody here to talk about the ordinance amendments? Okay. Okay, if there's no one here to talk about the ordinance amendments, we will close the public hearing, and we'll call the meeting in order. If you'll please stand for prayer. Let us pray. Dear gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day and all many lessons. Lord, we thank you again for giving us an opportunity to come for as city leaders. Lord, we pray that we do everything in accordance with thy will. Lord, we pray that you give us the wisdom and guidance that we need to move our community forward. Pray for the sick, and especially the ones that we know. If you will restore them back to their much wanted health, Lord, to be thy will. We pray for our doctors and our scientists and our country, that they will find a cure for this COVID-19, Lord, and give them the knowledge and to pass it on, Lord, where there will be a vaccine to pass on to the patients, Lord. Pray for our country and the men and women that serve our country, Lord. We pray, especially the ones on Ford Soul, if you'll put your hand around them, bring them back home safe and sound, to be thy will. Forgive us of our sins, in Christ's name we pray. Amen. Amen. Chief Alderman, lead us with pledge, please.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call, everyone is present. I'd like to welcome Dr. John Clough, Alderman Clough, to the City Council, his first meeting tonight. Welcome, Mr. Clough.
Thank you.
Will that be Mr. Clough, Alderman Clough, or Doc Clough? Alderman Clough, okay. Got it. Need a motion to approve the minutes of last month's meeting. Motion made by Alderman Coleman. Second by Alderman Dale. Any discussion?
Motion made by Alderman Coleman.
All for the motion, let it know by saying aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion passed. All right. Additions or deletions to the agenda. I do have one. Delete item 13 of the agenda and add in the state form CT 0253 is a form that we have to do from the state. Just put that in place of 13. Is there any other additions or delete? Well, first, let's vote on that.
Can you repeat that CT one?
It is a CT 0253. It's a letter from the comptroller's office that it says it has to be approved. It goes with dealing in, we borrowed the money.
Right.
For
So 13's gone.
Yeah,
We're
right.
not proposing that one at all.
No. The current 13, we're appointing someone to the BZA. I'm saying delete that. But I'm also saying add state form CT 0253 as number 13. Okay, I need a motion on that, please. Motion made by Vice Mayor Ken Dodson. Second by Alderman Clough. Any discussion? All for the motion, let it know by saying aye. All opposed, like sign. Okay, motion passes. Is there any other additions or deletions to the agenda? Hearing none, we will accept the agenda. Under old business, item number 1 is the second ordinance, 2020-8-1. Amendment various sections of the property maintenance regulations. That's what we just, we had the first reading last month. And had a public hearing, which we put these in the paper, and no one is called on it. So we're going to go ahead and accept this second reading of the ordinance 2020-8-1. Are there any questions? Yes.
Motion approved.
Motion by Vice Mayor Dodson to approve the second reading on ordinance 2020-8-1. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Dale. Any discussion? All for the motion, let it know by saying aye. All opposed, like sign.
No.
Five ayes and 1 aye. Item number 1 under new business, downtown revitalization, got 2 reports. One from Mr. Ray Evans in Shannon County. Ms. Shannon County.
So, 3 items from, well, 4 items from this meeting. The first is a report on the status of our TDOT multimodal access ramp sidewalk project on East Broad and East Main. We finally got, after 90 days of review, we finally got approval from PDOT on preliminary design and the NEPA documentation. We are now, after that approval, we are now waiting on one additional step of PDOT, and that is a notice to proceed on final design. We are hoping to receive that this week, and then our consultant will start the final design and preparation of the construction documents. I still anticipate probably a spring construction period. I can't imagine that we'll have plans ready and PDOT approval, since it's taking 3 times as long during this pandemic as it did previously to get approval. Second item is the Courthouse Plaza project. It's a PDOT Transportation Alternatives Program project. Thanks to Ms. Rebecca's very diligent work, we have a first set and second set of paperwork submitted to PDOT. and are waiting on them to send us a contract document to execute and proceed on that. Before the end of the month, we will advertise for proposals from consulting engineers to actually perform the design test on that project as well. The last item that I have is that with Greg McDonald's retirement from the chamber, that leaves a vacancy on the Downtown Revitalization Committee board. And I have discussed with the mayor, and he concurs that we nominate Shannon Cantrell to replace Greg on that board, and I would ask this body to approve that nomination.
Okay, you heard the recommendation from Mr. Ray Evans. And we'll take
I'll make a motion to.
motion made by Alderman Kelly Coleman to approve Ms. Cantrell to take Mr. Donald's place on the Downtown Revitalization / Main Street Committee. Second by Alderman Langford. Any discussion? All for the motion, let it know by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion passed. Anything else, Ray?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you, Ray. Ms. Cantrell.
Hope y'all don't mind if I take this off to talk. I gotta have my glasses, it fogs my glasses up. So, if y'all remember a couple weeks ago, I spoke with y'all about the Artsville Communities Grant that we had applied for. We received news that we did receive this grant a couple weeks ago. We received about half of the funds that we could receive for this. We received $1,195. With this being a 50-50 match, that gives us enough to work with to allow for 2 murals to be painted in our downtown area. So the match, as we discussed last time, would be on the business owner. And it is to help to promote tourism in our area and preserve our history. So the first 2 murals will have to be of some sort of historic nature. The designs will be, I guess really we've got a lot to work on so far. The next Downtown Revitalization Committee meeting we're going to discuss these guidelines, but they do have to be of some sort of historic reference. And the Rural Innovation Center is helping us with this, and they are currently working on selecting the students that will help us with this art project. We have from now until June 15th to complete this project.
Any questions for Ms. Cantrell? Okay, thank you. All right, thank you. Item number 2 is Mr. Greg Davenport via Zoom. Greg, can you hear us?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me all right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right. I came here tonight to talk to you about something that's going on with your raw water intake down at Butler's Landing on the Cumberland River. Curtis and myself and Jack Barron have all been in discussion the last 4 weeks about a situation with the control valves. And the city has budgeted for the potential for something like this to arise over the last few years. But I wanted to bring the council up to speed with where we were because it's likely going to result in a sizable expenditure. We designed an intake in 2008. It went into operation in 2009. It's been in operation probably for 11 years. As you all probably know, it's a very high pressure pumping station. The average operating pressure is around 350 psi, which is, approximately double what you'd see in most higher pressure situations. And one of the ways that we mitigate the effects of high pressure is we have specified control valves in the original design that slowly open, slowly close. So during a normal pumping cycle, the pump starts operating with the valve shut, and then the valve opens so that the pressure difference between the line and the pump is mitigated. And what this does is it prevents a big surge in the pipeline. High velocity surges can lead to line breaks and all sorts of problems. This system consists of two ball valves with the oil accumulator system that provides oil pressure to operate hydraulic operators, much like you see on a hydraulic cylinder on a tractor. They have a control system that goes with them. And ball valves are one of the most robust and therefore most expensive types of valves you can use for this application, but they were required due to the type of operation and the type of pressure. So here's the problem. The problem is there's been several instances where Jack has said operate from the water plant, the signal travels through radio telemetry, and the pump starts operating and the valve wouldn't open. And Jack had to drive down there, or whatever operator was on duty, and manually manipulate the pressure system to make the valve open. It's happened with both valves, but it's primarily happening with one of the valves. In the last 2 weeks, as far as I know, the quote good valve hasn't had any malfunctions. So it's my recommendation that both of these valves be replaced, but we continue using the same operating system for the oil. The problem is the lead time on the valves is 28 to 32 weeks, which is 7 to 8 months. And if both valves were to fail to operate and Jack or whomever couldn't manually manipulate them, then that intake would no longer function for transporting raw water to Livingston, and you'd have to go back on the city lake. Now, it's my understanding that Jack and the guys have kept City Lake functional as a backup source. So, and we talked to the valve manufacturer, and he said, we don't see that it's a high chance this will happen, but nonetheless, there is a chance. So what I'm recommending you doing is buy 2 new valves, and buy one of the valves with a manual bypass operator. And have that manual bypass operator sit down here in 12 weeks and have it put on one of the existing valves so that we're only without manual operation for about 12 weeks. The cost of 2 valves, manual operator, and 2 high pressure isolation butterfly valves is $114,000, $114,050. Back when we designed the system, the whole shooting match was $100,000, and I'd say the valve was probably $70,000. So in 11 years, it's gone from around 70 grand to 114,000. Now Curtis can address the budget, but my conversations with Curtis is that there's money available in the budget to go ahead and purchase this. This is not a bid out situation because we've got to have a Pratt valve to match the existing control and operating system. So the plan is order the 2 new valves. They'll be here in 7 to 8 months. The manual operator will be here in 12 weeks, hopefully. We'll get it on one valve, which should mitigate the total failure option. And then we will design a valve removal and replacement, just a couple little plan sheets to go along with it, and bid out a project for the replacement. So there will be additional costs related to replacing the valves. And my intention is to use some of the TML bond fund pool money with your all's permission when that time comes. I consider this to be an emergency item because you just can't do without the butlers and an intake. I mean, you can do without it, but it's just not something we all want to do. So that concludes my talk, and I recommend you move forward with a PO for $114,050 for Southern Sales Company.
Thank you, Mr. Davenport. Does anybody got any questions for Greg Davenport?
Can the old valves be rebuilt and put in storage like the pump did?
Yeah, I think that's what he's talking about doing. The question was, Greg, can the old valves be rebuilt and used again?
Oh, that's an excellent question, and thank you for catching that. I omitted that. The plan is to take the two valves, the existing valves, to remove them and send them back to the factory and have them rebuilt so that they can sit on the shelf and be ready for the next time this happens. The problem is we don't exactly know what's wrong with the valves until we ship them back to the factory. And if we had to do a total rebuild, it would be $35,000, whereas one new valve costs $52,000. I'm hopeful that it's not a total rebuild, and then we can get it for substantially less than that. But I sanction getting them rebuilt and having them sitting on the shelf for when you need them next time, so we can avoid this delay.
Does that answer your question, Chris? Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Davenport? Okay, if there's not, we need to make a motion, to go on his recommendation and to go ahead and buy those valves, as he was talking about. We budgeted about $160,000 a year, for the Butler's Landing project, because we never know when something like this is gonna break. We've been fortunate over the last couple of years to budget, a large amount of money, and we've not been able to use it. So of course, that money just went back in the general fund. But here's a situation that, I mean, if you don't get it fixed, folks, I mean, the raw water's not pumping to Livingston, and you're in a possibility of not being able to have water in Livingston. That's what we are to all of our water customers. So, if there's not any other questions, I'll entertain a motion, to take our engineer, Greg Davenport's recommendation.
Motion to follow Greg's recommendation.
Motion made by Alderman Rex Dale. Is there a second? Second by Alderman John Clough, and the motion is to go on the recommendation. It's going to be about $114,000, maybe 25 to 30 for the labor. So just so everyone knows, I don't want you to get stuck on that 114 because there's going to be some labor that goes in that. Okay, we got a motion and a second. Roll call vote, Ms. Phillips.
Alderman Bennett.
Yes.
Alderman Langford.
Yes.
Alderman Dale.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Dotson.
Yes.
Alderman Clough.
Yes.
Alderman Hogan.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Okay, motion passed. Thank you, Mr. Davenport. Have a good night.
All right, good night, Curtis. I'm going to send you a revised PO. It's the same terms, but they just used the wrong water source on there, and I'll email that to you, Phyllis.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you all.
Okay, item number 3 is the report of the duties of Fireman Chief Dow. Also, I think he's got some hiring recommendations.
As you can see, there's a lot of items on there. A lot of these things we don't do every day, but we was actually a list of things that we do outside of fighting fire. You know, the square up there, the courthouse, we go up there during the summer, we just drive, water the grass. The reason we do that is saves taxpayers money if we have to call somebody from the Parks and Rec area to come and do it. The splash pad, you know, big storms, 7 o'clock on Saturday night, we're there, we can run down there and turn it off. We want to call anybody in, spend 2 hours comp time, then come in and flip a switch. Of course, traffic lights, hydrant repair and maintenance, medical calls. We run a lot of medical calls. Escort for the trash truck.
Rocky, let me hold you right there. Someone asked me to look into, if we could get, send reimbursed for doing medical calls, and according to MTS, the answer is no. So I did look into it. Go ahead, Mike, sorry.
Okay, escort on the trash truck. Of course, you know, we had a bad incident with the trash truck. So now, if the police department's busy, we go and run a block for them, try to help them out. Temperature checks, with all the COVID, we go down to the city garage twice a day, 6 o'clock and 7 o'clock, take everybody's temperature, make sure nobody's running temperatures. Traffic control from funerals, you know, sometimes you get a large funeral procession and police maybe don't have 2 or 3 working, we got 4 or 5 intersections we need to shut down, we go help. Traffic control for vehicle accidents, you know. Traffic is crazy when you have a wreck. So we go help with that. We go out and install smoke alarms. We go out and check when people call about carbon monoxide in our house. We've got a meter, we go out and check it. We do fire extinguisher training. We go to the schools, Head Starts, daycares, places like that, and teach them fire extinguisher training. Animal calls, we go check on animals. Sometimes somebody says they're stuck in a drain, we go check on it, see if we can get them out. If they're in a tree, we go try to do what we can do. Debris removal from the road. When it storms, you have so many areas that are covered up with debris. Our guys go out and help them, try to get the roads cleared and open up as quick as possible. Helipad runs, we go down and help block the helicopter. They generally like to be blocked on the north side and the south side, so we go down if the police is busy and help them. Then we're out getting food and supplies.
Thank you, Chief. Do you have some recommendation of
I do, I have 2 that I'd like to recommend to Hart, Jason Huggins and Robert Holt.
Make a motion to hire these 2 boys from the fire department.
What was the last name on the second one?
Holt.
Holt. Are they here?
motion made by Alderman David Langford? Is there a second? Second, Vice Mayor Kim Dodson. Any discussion?
Are they present? Are these children present? Are they
Yes.
present?
Mr. Holt and Mr. Huggins.
Okay.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Any more discussion?
Yes, a quick question. Are they from the volunteer, are you currently volunteer now?
One is and one is not.
Okay.
Any questions? Any questions? Any discussion? Roll call, vote, Ms. Phillips.
Alderman Langford.
You went up in here. Did you say me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Alderman Dale.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Dotson.
Yes.
Alderman Cleft.
Yes.
Alderman Holman.
Yes.
Alderman Speck.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Motion passed. So next on the agenda, number 5 is a sign ordinance. I'm sorry, did I skip one? I did. Thank you, Ken. Higher Water Department employees, 3 employees, and Jared L. Kennedy here. Yes, sir. Yeah, go ahead, Jared. Who's the 3 that you've got? And I just want to be really clear on this. The only new positions tonight that are on the agenda is the ones on the fire. Everybody else was already budgeted in, and we certainly try to do more with less. And we tried this for about a year, and we're just struggling to try to keep caught up, and that's what this is doing. So, Mr. Kennedy, who's your 3 guys?
The 3 guys I was going to hire is Mr. Blake Hargis, Cody Jackson. I can't think of the other little gentleman's name. I can't remember his name.
Well, 3 positions.
Yeah, 3 positions, yes, sir.
All right,
3 positions.
thank you. Any questions for Mr. Kennedy? If not, I'll entertain a motion to hire 3 for the water department. Motion made by Vice Mayor Dodson. Is there a second? Second by Alderman Langford. Any discussion? Roll call, Ms. Phillips, please.
Alderman Dale.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Dotson.
Yes.
Alderman Cleft.
Yes.
Alderman Holman.
Yes.
Alderman Speck.
Yes.
Alderman Langford.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Now, I can move on to number 5, the sign ordinance. And, we just had some, folks that has, talked about the sign ordinance, and, of course, our codes and inspector enforcement has enforced this, and there seems to be, some concerns about the ordinance that we currently have that does not allow, sandwich boards to be on the public sidewalk, and that's just due to, if you got a copy of the sign ordinance, I think maybe you have, what I've asked to do, and I ran this by Mr. Meadows, is, to, under section 11-203-9-1, signs permitted in all districts, one unilluminated sign or not more than 2 square feet indicating the name of the occupant and his profession or business and attached flat against a wall or building. Here is what is new, added to that, not took away. And or one unilluminated sign on the city right of way that complies with all the ADA standards. The sign must be within 5 foot of the storefront and downtown district and not more than 2 square feet in size. So that is what, did everybody get a copy of that? Okay. That is what, that I'm asking to change, to make amendments to. Also, on section 11-203-93, ELF general regulations, it says, in the original, it says portable or temporary signs may not be placed on street right of way or on sidewalks because of wiring. Portable signs is usually exposed, not being on. So, I've stopped right there for that first sentence and added, portable temporary signs may not be placed on any street right of way or sidewalks unless they are located in the downtown business district and comply with all ADA standards. And then the last sentence there says portable signs may not be used for off-premise advertising except for educational, religious, or a storefront in the downtown district or for charitable events. And what that would do is, given the fact that we don't have wide sidewalks in the downtown district, the hang-up has been the Americans for Disability Act, ADA. It says that you need to have 60 inches of sidewalk in the event that you have 2 wheelchairs that are passive. So on the east side of the square is the only place, according to Christian, that this sidewalk is big enough to do that, okay? So over on the Church Street, the Church Street side would be the only side that is big enough. The other sidewalks are just simply not wide enough to comply with the ADA compliance, okay? So you may get calls about the ones on Spring or the ones on Broad there or on Main, and the reason is simply the sidewalks are not wide enough, okay?
Have we ever had any complaints, people not being able to get around?
Yeah. We've had ADA compliance, yes.
I mean, we've had taxpayers that walked the street complaining they couldn't get by the signs.
It wasn't people that was walking, it was people that was either on a walker, or it was people either on a walker or wheelchair or stuff like, yes, we have. So, but I just want to be clear on that, but at least this does, help at least one side of the square, and in the event we was to do an overhaul or something, then it would open up, the other sides too. But right now, this would really just be on the east side of the square.
So does the new multimodal access, those sidewalks, are they gonna be wide?
They are.
Wide enough to contain this as well?
Yeah, and if you look over into my right, the sidewalks that are going to be wide enough, but also the benches and the garbage cans are located on the inside. So the benches that, as you know it now, that are sitting on the sidewalks will be removed and replaced, okay? Repositioned. is where they will be, and that will put us in compliance, okay?
The point I was asking was, will these new sidewalks be
Oh,
wide
yeah.
enough to contain
Yes.
signage then?
Yeah.
Or will they just be wide enough to be ADA compliant?
But they will be ADA compliant for sure. Now, if there's any extra there, then,
We'll just know once they're done.
right,
Gotcha.
that's right. I mean, they can't build them any other way than ADA compliant.
Mayor, I have a quick question.
Yes, sir.
So which one of these, revised sections then applies to this, quote, sandwich board?
Well, section 11-203-9-1 is that you can put signs there.
And it's a 2 square foot maximum. So what we consider a sandwich board, that's still, those are gonna go away, period.
No, no, this will allow them.
I know, but 2 square feet is not gonna be enough to allow a sandwich. Right?
It's 1 to 2, that's right. That's basically what they got now.
Okay. So the one by
So it does allow the sandwich boards all the way around the square.
No,
No.
it's not what it said. It will be on Church Street because the sidewalks is only wide enough.
They're 8 feet.
But they're allowed the sandwich boards.
Yes,
That's-
not all the way around the square though, but on Church Street,
Those sidewalks are about 8 feet over there on that Church Street.
something like that.
I thought sandwich boards were bigger than that.
Now, it's just, I talked to Christian, he said, "Look, I found it." So if you wanna do this, I just need to make a motion, to add these amendments, to this, sign ordinance. We would have to pass it tonight, we'd have to have a public hearing, and then you'd have to have a second reading. If not, there would be no sandwich boards or any signs on the right of way, period. So it's wherever you have to.
I make a motion that we accept your recommendation to change these codes to allow this.
Motion made by Alderman Coleman,
Second.
second by Alderman Langford. Any discussion?
Curtis, will you tell the public where the downtown business district is?
Yeah, so, going down South Church, it'll go, basically at the intersection of, I guess that'd be First Street and University, Farmers Market, if you know where that's at. Going, down the other way, it'll go all the way down to, the shirt factory, the old shirt factory area, past that there. Same thing on Spring, going this way on Spring, it would, coming back over the hill, it would go again to First Street right here. And, it would go to the Chamber of Commerce, going east, west, it would go, just a little bit past, the Winningham's Hardware, Joel Evans Community Center. That's what they call the downtown district, so the state calls it.
Thank you.
Well, are they allowed the signboards on the Apple Dish side? On
No.
the side of the square?
No, the sidewalks are not big enough.
Curtis, what did you say a standard sandwich board size is?
We're saying 2 square foot, but it's 1 to 2. And what this is they're just having, it's about 2.5, 3 foot tall, and it just folds out, and it's very small. Now.
Well, the one I've seen around the square are not bigger than 1 by 2.
Okay,
I
I sit down with Christian.
Okay.
I went and talked to some of the merchants today, and it was okay.
With the 1 by 2.
If you want to make it larger, we can make it larger.
I'm kind of lost. I mean, you don't have any restaurants on the other side. You got the post office, you got, lawyers' offices, you got the libraries, all that stuff. What's the purpose of the sandwich board?
On Church Street, well, there's some
I'm
business there.
talking about on the other side.
Yeah,
I
well,
mean, I thought that we was doing the Apple Dish side.
no, that's not what I said. I said the only thing that is allowed, given the size of the sidewalk, is Church Street. That's the only one that is out there. So if the sidewalks, was bigger, and I know,
If the sidewalk's not wide enough, you don't get them.
that's right.
Question.
Yes,
And the bricks, the memorial bricks,
You're not counting as,
That according to Miss Margaret Mahler, they are not, that you cannot count that because they are ceremonial brick and they're not a permanent foundation. So, that's where we are.
I still question the 1 by 2. Only because I, go here and look at sound for.
Shannon, of course, I've got a motion in a second. How big are the boards that you're about to talk about, do you know?
These are not sandwich board signs, these
Yeah,
are
they're-
signs that are attached to the building,
Right.
and they're various
Right.
sizes.
Well, like I
I mean,
said,
I'm not wanting to get into, debate here, but
you'll make it
For
through.
1 by 2, come on, Google a sandwich board. I mean, the lowest one I've seen is a 24 by 36.
Let's make it 24 or 36. I'm just going.
You're not married to the one.
Oh, no, not at all.
Well, that's what I'm just
Not
trying
at
to
all.
clarify.
I just simply took the sign ordinance that we have now,
Sure.
that are calling for 2 square feet. I just took that,
Right.
added that in, and that's how it came
Yeah.
out. I went with, I talked to our codes enforcement, and he said that was fine. I went and talked to the business that has asked about it, he said it was fine with him. So that's all I need. So we can go to whatever size that we want to go. But, I mean, of course, here's what you gotta understand. You got to have 5 feet
Right.
in passing.
Yeah, I understand that.
So if you make this board bigger,
No, I think you do need a maximum. I'm
Right.
not debating that.
yeah. But just understand though, that there has got to be a clear 5-foot passing between the building and the board for ADA to be compliant. So the bigger the sign you got, the less room that you're gonna have on there. So I'm in support of whatever size that you want to put on there. I just don't want to.
Well, standard
some-
sizes are, 20, 30, 22 by 28, 24 by 26. But, hell, this is 11 inches, 11 and a half.
Right.
So that's 1 foot by 2 feet. That's not representative of what we've seen up there that we think is a sandwich board. I don't know, you said that the person said it was fine. You think they realized it was 1 foot by 2 feet?
I talked to them. But like I said, Kelly, we can just take that to the square out and just put that on there. If that's what we want to do. Now's the time to do it.
I think that should be reviewed. The size.
Do we need to take back our motions and table this, we review
If you just remember, if you take back the motion, yes, you can do that. And that's going to stall us in.
It can be changed before the second reading. This is the first and the second.
This is just the first.
Sorry, say it can be changed before the second?
Yeah.
Okay, well, we can change it if it needs to be changed after this reading.
Okay.
Well, I'm good with that.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Okay, roll call, Ms. Rose.
Councilman Johnson,
Yes.
Alderman Flood,
Yes.
Alderman Coleman,
Yes.
Alderman Steck,
Yes.
Alderman Knight,
it. Yes.
Alderman Dale,
Yes.
motion passed.
Motion passed. Item number 6, Police Chief Greg Etheridge.
Yes, we're requesting to formally hire Tracy Dishman back. Adriana Wattenberger had decided that dispatching was not what she wanted to do. And we also were aware that Chelsea, our other dispatcher, was looking at a job going to Cookville. So Chelsea's last day is actually going to be the end of the week. So we asked him to go ahead and put Tracy back. She's ready to go. She's got to just walk in the door. And of course, I asked to do it on an emergency basis. for that. So that's the first thing to deal with, Tracy replacing Angel One. The second is Officer Jordan Danner has been accepted to the Tennessee Highway Patrol. And we wish him well. And his last day with us will actually be the end of the week here, September 11th. The reason for late notice for this is there's a fellow named Max Goodpasture. Some of you might remember Max. Max served with me for many years. He worked for the city before. He's a sergeant with Fentress County Sheriff's Office. And we were actually working a counterfeit case over the last few days. And I told him about the opening and he agreed to come. He's got more years than I do. He's almost got 32 years. I've served with him, trust him. He would be one to just basically, he remembers the roads, a few little protocol things, but to replace Jordan.
Okay, great.
So you've got 2 resignations and 2 replacements. The 2 replacements.
I have 3 resignations, 2 replacements. So
Yeah, and the other is the dispatch.
we'll be looking for that over the next board meeting.
Right, so that, he's got 3 slots, and we need to go, if that's what he wants to do, is go ahead and allow that 3rd position too, so he can go ahead and hire who he needs.
Make a motion that we hire Tracy Dishman back and also Max Goodpasture. Tracy's actually her job, Max is too, on both of them very well.
Tracy, Max, and the other position as well, we're not David position.
Yeah.
That's what we had, okay. All right, so you got a motion, is there a second?
I second.
Second by Vice Mayor Ken Dotson. Any discussion?
If these folks are coming in at either same pay or less than the people that left.
Close.
Okay. But we didn't vote.
It'd be going by the pay scale.
Okay.
I've got a motion and a second, any discussion? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Alderman Clark,
Yes.
Alderman Coleman,
Yes.
Alderman Stead,
Yes.
Alderman Langford,
Yes.
Alderman Dale,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Dotson.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Motion passed.
Thank you.
Item number 7 is item number 7 is automated meter reading system. Mr. Taylor, Mr. Deering, come on up and talk about that. If you remember me talking about, and this is not to be voted on, I don't want to be really clear on that, but it is simply just to introduce the automatic meter reading system. It's called the AMR system. And simply what this system would do would be, we would be adding the meter readers to the water department. No one would lose their job. We just wouldn't rehire if someone was to quit in those positions. So I just wanted to introduce this to the council. Go ahead.
Thank you guys for having us. I'm Will Taylor, work for United Systems and Software. Previously worked for 2 utilities in the state of Tennessee and then also for Tennessee Association of Utility Districts, kind of advising similar to probably what MTAS does for cities to you guys. Been talking with the mayor probably for several years at various shows and conferences. And this is something that most utilities really, when they're looking to make a change, especially a meter change out, they look to go in this direction. It's kind of like features on a vehicle. Most people are getting backup cameras now with new cars and things of that nature. Most people just don't go with a typical standard read meter. What we're going to allow you to do, right now you have 3 meter readers that read your meters approximately 12 days each month, so about 36 days total that they're tied up reading meters. What our system allows you to do, we will have one person driving the speed limit that can read all of your water and gas meters in about 2 days. So what they will get is a meter reading from each customer. In addition to that, if the customer were to have a leak, our system was able to detect that they had continuous usage, a leaky toilet, something like that. We will also give city personnel the previous 40 days of usage off each meter. And what that will enable the ladies or me in the office to do, somebody has a high bill, you kind of give them a graph and show them, hey, you know, on the 14th of the month, you look like you had higher water usage. Oh yeah, we had family in town. Or if you have a high gas bill, maybe as fall starts, you can show them on the 1st of September, it got cold that night, did you keep your heat on? Oh yeah, I remember that. Some of the other things that it obviously accomplishes is a safety aspect. I live in Lafayette, Tennessee. Don't hold that against me. Some of y'all Livingston people up here. I coached against Ferguson football several years ago. But they adopted this many years ago from a safety aspect. There were more and more people moving into town, and especially when you have to go in someone's yard to read their meter, there were people coming out questioning why they were there, what they were doing. So this will enable you to read, like I said, at the posted speed limit, just driving down the road. One of the things that kind of separates our system from the others is, one, we can read water and gas at the same time as you drive by. The second thing is we have an acoustic leak sensor that ties off on your service line in addition to this. You guys are losing quite a bit of water each year. It's natural to lose. What I typically see is about 20 to 30% of the water you pump from a raw water intake. It's going to hit the ground, especially with the higher pressures that you guys have over here. However, by implementing the system, we are able to listen. Every time you drive by each month, we're going to give you a system-wide leak detection scan. So it's going to allow your water department employees to know between meter A and meter B, we've got something going on here, and we can deploy resources to repair those leaks in a timely fashion. You know, a lot of times you're repairing leaks, and a lot of people go out there and expect you're going to have water blowing up in the air. You see it on the movies when they run over a fire hydrant and water spewing up. That's really not the case. Most of these leaks are leaking into the ground and flowing into some type of creek or crevice, and they never surface. In addition to that, the goal is to catch some of these leaks before they become bigger problems where you have to dig up roads or get the state involved if it's a state highway. So if we can find a small leak before it becomes a larger leak, then we could help with that as well. As I mentioned, right now, based off your audit, you have to do a water loss report there. It's about 4 pages from the back of your 2019 audit. And the total lost revenue, that's really operational costs in addition to water that's leaking, inaccurate meters, is about $700,000 each year. So we feel very confident that we can knock that number down substantially, and really this is a no-brainer project in that it pays for itself typically in about 4 to 5 years. 20-year lifespan on the product. With a 20-year warranty, it's 10 years full and then 10 years prorated. So years 10 through 15, if something was to break, it's a 50% replacement. Years 15 through 20, it would be 25% replacement. That's really the nuts and bolts of the system. It works on an RF signal similar to the telemetry that I mentioned earlier from the intake to the water plant. We're just passing the signal from a meter box to an antenna that's on top of the truck as you drive by and read your meters. And I'm open to any questions if you guys have any. We've got several customers in the area, Lafayette, Middle Tennessee Gas, City of Lebanon, City of Murfreesboro, Town of Smyrna. Murfreesboro is a great example. They were losing about 38% of unaccounted for water when we done this project in 2015. Now they're down around 20. So we were able to, and what they've done with their meter readers, they had 6 full-time meter readers. They can read it with one person. So the other 5 became leak detection crew and things of that nature to help, you know, really knock those, get those dollars recouped what the project costs. That's really the system in a nutshell right there.
Thank you, Will. Like I said, this is certainly not to be voted on tonight, but I just wanted to introduce this to the woman here tonight.
One thing we didn't mention is this would be a turnkey project in that we could come in and actually install this ourselves as a company, we could put all this in billing. It has to work with your billing software as well, so we've been doing this for well over 30 years now, so it makes it a seamless transition that allows us to come in and just kind of do the whole project from A to Z. I have seen some projects where they kind of piecemeal it together, and it will make your employees' life a little crazy because they're trying to do everything else that they're supposed to do from day to day and trying to implement a project like this. It just really, they don't have the time normally to do that. So, but I do thank you guys for your time. And if you have any questions, like I said, we're an hour away. We can come anytime to answer those.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Taylor? Go ahead.
What do you suspect a system that Livingston would be might cost?
Might cost. Some of that is, and we've got a budgetary number, I'll tell you, some of that is relative to how many leak sensors you want. My recommendation would be about 4,000 of those based off, really because you're so spread out. Normally we would do 1 to 2. Every other meter would get one, but out in our county areas, we would probably saturate that area because we get about 1,000 to 1,500 feet of coverage from a leak sensor. So it looks at the service line and the main. So we would have a few more of those out there due to the properties being spread out. Right now, our budgetary number, replacing everything, installing it, interfacing it with your software, is about $1.8 million. Like I said, with $700,000 in revenue. The other thing I didn't mention is that's just water revenue. Obviously, sewer revenue is typically based off your water revenue. So if we can knock that number down and increase your metering accuracy, you'll see a tick up in your sewer revenue. We're not increasing rates. We're not charging people more. It's really just capturing the water that they use. And just think of it as a gas pump. Right now, when they pump the water through the meter, you're losing some revenue due to inaccuracies. Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Taylor? Thank you. Item number 8, street paving bids. We had a bid opening, advertising. We had one proposal, and that is Rogers Group at $92 per ton. If you look there in the back of that, you can see the numbers that we have projected this to be. I had the water and gas supervisors to go around and check the streets that has been tore up due to water leaks and gas leaks. So we was able to use a little money out of that fund to go back with, we borrowed $1 million. I've got $931,000, 653. Now, if we can do more, but we, Mr. Peak and the street department has got some tile to buy out of that and to make some corrections to it to get it ready to pay. But this was the only bid, and I'd recommend you take the Rogers Group. Now, this is a 2-month contract. If you approve it tonight, they will be done a 2-month contract from September the 9th to November the 9th.
Does that give Wayne enough time to get it ready?
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about this for a while. So, I just need a motion to accept the bid for the Rogers Group.
Motion to accept.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Speck, second by Alderman Coleman. Any discussion?
This 191,000 that says minus here, that's water and gas.
Yeah, the gas would be 119. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, 191 through 60. Yes, that's minus the water and gas.
Wayne, do you seem to think we can do all 36, 37 streets for this amount of money? Or you don't know?
I don't know, man, we'll just have to go as far as the tonnage goes, we'll just go as far as it goes.
these streets that we got in order here, are we gonna do them? Or this list of streets, are we gonna start them in order, or?
No, because some of them I have to work on and swap the tiles out. And they'll be the last because they need to settle in.
David, to answer your question, according to the Rogers Group, we'll be able to do all these roads. And they came up here twice.
Those are their measurements and.
That's
their
right.
quote.
That's right, and they're done.
How many miles street is this? Anybody know?
I don't know about the miles. There's also- I don't know the miles, David. We just got, they got it on now, they're going for stuff.
That's less than we paid per ton when we did car.
That's right.
I think it was 96 a ton.
So, got a motion and a second. Roll call, Ms. Rose.
Alderman Coleman,
Yes.
Alderman Speck,
Yes.
Alderman Langford,
Yes.
Alderman Dale,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Dodson,
Yes.
Alderman Flood,
Yes.
motion passed.
Motion passed. Item number 10, resolution 2020-9-1, hazard mitigation plan. Ms. Rebecca.
Just a few months back, it was, well, you approved to adopt the hazard mitigation plan. This is just a resolution, we put it on paper. I guess it was just in the minutes the last time, but now it's on paper. And that's just another step toward, the application's been turned in, but this is just some more paperwork that we had to do. We was waiting on the county to get theirs done. So now the county's done theirs, their turn.
So we just need to approve this resolution. So it says the town of Livingston recognizes the threat of natural hazards posed to people and property and undertaking hazard mitigation action for disasters to reduce the potential for harm people, property, and save taxpayer dollars, whereas adoption of hazard mitigation plan is required as a condition of future grant funding for mitigation projects, and whereas the town of Livingston participates jointly in the planning process and other local units of government with and the county to prepare a hazard mitigation plan. Now therefore be resolved, town of Livingston Mayor Bill Kaufman hereby adopt town of Livingston hazard mitigation plan as an official plan, and be it further resolved, Overton County Emergency Management will spend on behalf of participation as municipalities adopted hazard mitigation plan, federal emergency management agency officials final review and approval. Don't ask me to read that.
Motion to adopt.
Motion made by Vice Mayor Dodson. Is there a second? Second by Alderman Clough. Any discussion? All for the motion, let it know by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. All opposed, like sign. Motion passed. All right. Item number 11 is hire Andrew Mansell as water plant operator, as recommended by Jack Parrott. Any questions for Mr. Parrott? Did I skip another? Oh, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to get them glasses I thought. I just told you I'm gonna have to go get an eye test, so anyway. Yes, item number 9, hire street department employees. Mr. Wayne Peak is president, and he's had some, and again, these are not new positions. They are just simply fill in, and he has one in mind, and then he's waiting on another CDL person, so,
Yes, I'm just needing permission to hire 2 men, and one of them may start Wednesday, he's got to get driving license.
yeah. So,
And then I've got to find them on my CDL.
right. Okay. So is there a motion to be made?
Motion approved.
Motion made by Rex Dell,
Second.
second by Kelly Coleman. Any discussion? All for the motion, let it know by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion passed. All right. Hire Andrew Mansell as water plant operator, recommended by Jack Parrott. Mr. Parrott is here, he's got a position that is deemed to be someone to put it, so. Anybody want to make a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion made by Vice Mayor Ken Dodson, second by Alderman Kelly Coleman. Any discussion? All for the motion, let it know by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign, motion passed. Number 12, appoint John Clough to the Planning Commission. May not be only John. Motion made by Alderman Kelly Coleman to appoint Alderman Clough to the Planning Commission.
Second.
Second by Alderman Rex Dale. Any discussion? All for the motion, let it know by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, motion passed. Item number 13, if you have your packet, it looks like this. This is just a form, the comptroller, says that we need to pass. It's over the $1 million that we borrowed, for the street. So, I need a motion to accept this, CT 0253 state form.
Motion to accept.
Motion made by Alderman John Clough, second.
Second.
Second by Vice Mayor Johnson. Any discussion? All for the motion, let it know by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign, motion passed. The rest of your, so you can see that the comptroller's office has approved their budget. You can see also that they approved of the $1 million bill. Is there any other business with the city? Does anyone have any other business with the city? Okay, any motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion second. All for the motion, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Adjourn.